Hey YouTube, it's Brett,
And I'm Brad.
and we're coming at you guys with a intermediary video between the Last Archetype series and the upcoming Ritual Beast one. So in the downtime between them, we're going to try and make a few videos each time, mainly while we kind of compile all the ideas and information we need to make 9, 10 video series. So this one is going to be regarding the ban list and kind of more of like a ideology of the ban list. This is going to be kind of taken from a multiple perspectives because when you often see ban list videos, it's a very biased thing of one person saying, "Hey, I think this should be on the ban list, this shouldn't," because and they're all speaking from their personal biases of what affects them the most. Obviously, uh, Konami has a bias too. They're a business, so money, but they also have to balance that with a bias of making a game that is actually fun and competitive. So they have to balance those two things. So everyone has a bias, and I'm going to kind of explain those biases that Konami has and that I have, so as to see that where I'm coming from. I mean, obviously this is personal opinion. You guys can yell at me or whatever. It's fun. I always love watching other people's ban list predictions and be like, ooh, no, that guy's stupid. But no. So here we go. So this format, Necroz has been very dominant. That sold a lot of Secret Forces. Konami wins. However, Burning Abyss and Shadal has won two of the biggest nationals. Still going to be about a month till we see what Worlds Victor is, but so we got a pretty diverse spread of decks actually topping big events here. However, most people did not like this format from what I have seen and observed, mostly from just personal experience of people telling me that they think this is a terrible format. The reason that is because of a few select cards existing, and I think if a few select cards can ruin a format for so many people, that those cards probably should not be in the game. Furthermore, what I'm trying to really get at is if you can stop an entire deck from being a thing by taking away one card, and that deck was a tier 1, tier 0 deck, then that card probably shouldn't have been a thing. That sounds really overpowered to like an outside observer from the game if a single card is the difference between a deck sucking and being terrible.
Or being amazing.
Yeah, and being amazing. Uh, so the very first card I'm actually going to talk about though is this card should not exist. Burn decks, a lot of people hate burn decks, especially in the competitive field, because they limit player interaction. And without player interaction, the game gets stale a lot faster to most people. Obviously, this is opinion based. But what Magical Explosion does, the only deck it's ever seen in realistically are FTK decks. And the new Chicken Race card coming out makes Magical Explosion 10 times stupider because it's I think like a 96% FTK rate or something. It's something really
Something like Makira's.
it's something really stupid. So this card, you can just make Chicken Race not be a problem, and you won't have to hit Chicken Race. And Chicken Race, mind you, actually is a really cool card. I'm actually going to pull it up for you guys. It can be used by both players. The player with less life points takes no damage. Once per turn during either player's main phase, the turn player can pay 1,000 life points and activate one of the following effects. And nothing can be activated in response. So draw a card, destroy a card, your opponent gains 1,000 life
Destroy
points.
this card.
Destroy this card. So you, as the opposing player of whoever activates this, if they don't FTK you, can actually just pay 1,000 life points to destroy it for what would technically be a +1.
Or draw a card.
Furthermore, you could draw a card, so you can use this card to your advantage, and it has a really interesting effect of making the person who's losing not lose life points. That is really cool, and you
Use it with gaining life points.
so there's a lot of cool things about this card, and it actually I think introduces a lot of player interaction to the game. The cards cannot be activated in response is actually kind of trivial because none of these do anything massively stupid. The reason this is actually here, I believe, is because of the destroy this card, so your opponent can't, the player who activated it can't protect it. Essentially, is so it's a really balanced card. If burn FTKs didn't exist and Exodia FTKs and stuff, I don't think it creates a stupid Exodia FTK though. It puts Upstart to a lot higher than it should be because it is an Upstart. And if you've ever seen the deck combined with pseudo space, you basically have a deck with 12 upstarts after accounting for terraforming. Um, so it is a pretty crazy card, but it's not a broken card or a game changing card unless there's degenerate FTKs.
And one way we fix the Exodia FTK is we think that something needs to be done to Royal Magical Library.
Which, yeah, the only place you see this is FTK stupid decks. The new Ignite deck coming out uses this, and when it uses it, it's also a degenerate card, pretty much. It's pretty much it's a degenerate card. Any card that lets you draw 20 times in a turn, probably not 20, but 10 times in a turn, that is searchable, specialable from the deck. It's it's not a good healthy card for the game. It doesn't like make you think or anything. It's like, can I find 3 spells? Can I activate them to draw another card? So I don't like this card. So obviously opinion based, but
It's also just not very good for the game in general.
I just don't. Yeah, we don't think it's good for the game. Last card that we don't think is good for the game, and none of these were relevant this format. It's just cards that I think if they were removed from the game would make me and a lot of people probably a lot happier. Nodin's coming out, and a few Norden now, and so along with Chicken Race, this card is also pretty much only used exclusively in FTKs, and it just has a stupidly high amount of burn damage it can deal, and with Elemental Heroes, there's this weird combo where you can keep recycling it, and no thank you. So, out with that card. Okay, so as far as this format cards,
Cards that aren't healthy, let's start with those.
so we're going to start with Jin. Vanities is at 1, and Jin is Vanities on steroids.
And it is at 3.
And so there's this kind of debate I've seen going on, I'm sure a lot of you know, between do you ban Jin or do you ban Lavavo Chain? And so Lavavo Chain is just one mean of accessing Jin, and Lavavo Chain is also integral to tons of tier 2, tier 3 decks working. Whereas Jin can just be used it's only been effectively used in one deck recently, which is Necroz, and it creates a very hard to break lock for most decks. And it basically just turns into, can you draw your outs versus can I outplay my opponent? It turns any game into that.
And some people have been saying that, oh, it's not that hard of a lock to break, but the thing is, it makes people play cards that aren't advantageous to their deck just to deal with a certain problem card that can be there. And so it's just not healthy to have to add cards to your deck that have no synergy just to get rid of a certain problem card.
And what that term Brad was explaining there is called over-centralizing the game. And that is exactly what Jin Releaser of Rituals does. It over-centralizes the game. It focuses everything on that Jin lock. Like when players were going to Nats, they're like, do I have main deck outs? Do I have side deck outs to the Jin lock? How do I deal with the Jin lock? That was one of the first things probably dealing with a lot of players they were dealing with. So that's a big thing. So next thing, if you ban this, I actually don't think Necroz will be hurt that much still. It's still a very powerful deck. So I think it still needs to be hit. ARG actually took a very brutal stance and banned Trishula and hit Unicorn to 1. I think all that really needs to happen if the Jin is gone, however, is that we could hit Unicorn to 1 and then maybe Kaleidoscope to 1. If you take away Trishula, the deck kind of needs Trishula because that's actually one of their only places where they actually go plus besides the ritual spells banishing from grave. None of their actual other monsters go plus, if that makes sense. The fairies do, but that's not like an archetypal card.
Well, actually, all their monsters do go plus against extra deck monsters, or most of them do. But
I mean, they go situationally plus, but like just summoning them, none of them are like, hey, add this card or add that card. So I don't know. Trishula is the one that gains them advantage, and it is a very powerful effect, mind you, but it is a reward for the deck, kind of, for running rituals, even though they are a lot better than regular rituals. But again, with Jin out, hitting either just Unicorn to 1 or touching Kaleidoscope or maybe Shrit just a little bit, I think that'll bring the deck down to a playable level. Especially with a lot of the decks that could have been good this format couldn't play because Necroz existed, but if the lock doesn't exist, a lot of decks can actually play against Necroz much easier, if that makes sense. Like, I was thinking also, if they hit Necroz enough that Prep could come back, that's actually a good thing because Prep helps a lot of shitty ritual decks. And you shouldn't hit a card that breaks another card. Um, just because it breaks another card, kind of. How am I trying to say this? Uh,
You
I heard,
shouldn't hurt a non-archetype specific card that makes an archetype good. You should hit the archetype
yeah,
instead.
it's the archetype that's busted. If the because obviously Prep had never been a problem before. Um, I heard a good statement once that you shouldn't unban a card if it requires you to ban two in its place. Um, so, and I think that's kind of like you shouldn't hit this card if it requires like you should hit the problem, which is Necroz cards being very powerful. Um, and stupid Jin. Mainly, I'd be happy if just Jin goes away, and I'm pretty sure everyone's confident it will. All right, so let's talk about a few other things now. I'm gonna step back from Necroz and actually talk about what Konami is gonna probably want for the next format. So the next set coming out brings out Ignites, Arrow Mages, and Performapals, all of which are very heavily search oriented. Unfortunately, the last time they brought out a very heavily search oriented deck and tried to make them good, which was Dragon Rulers and Prophecy in that same format, they hit Thunder King Ryo to one preemptively because they knew it would be really good against the cards coming out. So they're probably, unfortunately, going to hit Mistake, even though I don't think Mistake really deserves it. It's not nearly as a powerful floodgate as Vanity or Royal or anything. It's a really fair floodgate because it hits both players from searching. Um, and it also can be removed by extra deck monsters, whereas so you can toolbox over a Mistake much easier than you can toolbox over a Vanity. Uh, Mistake doesn't stop you from playing; it just stops you from searching.
It
I guess
stops
it's not
consistency, not your plays.
yeah, it stops consistency rather than just stops you from playing. Um, Anti spell also. I hope they just errata this because I feel like they're gonna feel like obligated to almost hit this because you can't play pendulums when this is on the play, which is a huge problem if Konami's trying to sell pendulums and there's a card that literally says, "Hey, you can't activate pendulum scales." Um, it's a really cool card, so it's really unfortunate if that happens. But if they hit this, I'd rather it just be errata that pendulums can be activated, or there has to be something done because not a, like I personally like it how it is, but Konami needs to sell them, so obviously something's going to have to happen to this card, I think. Um, so for the other decks that were very high tier this format, Seer and Dante, they won U.S. Nats first and got the first and second there. Both very very powerful cards, and I feel like Burning Abyss as an archetype is a really cool archetype, and it's just way too good at OTKing and not losing advantage, and it's kind of just because of these two cards actually. If you hit Seer to one or Dante to two, the or both, the ability for the deck to OTK and to have like a ridiculous grind game goes down a notch, which it's really not that hard to start the Seer Dante loop. So for how rewarding it is kind of crazy if you think about it. The deck is just a very powerful deck, and while I want it to still be a playable deck, I think you do need to take it down a notch because it shits on even the new cards coming out. Burning Abyss just shit on a lot of things because they're so versatile.
And
Uh,
also, another reason they're going to want to hit it is they aren't going to be selling very much with Burning Abyss. I don't think they were even confirmed for the Megatons yet.
uh,
So,
yeah, so it's in Konami's interest to probably hit this card. I'd rather this get hit than Dante though, because Dante at three still, I wouldn't mind it that bad. Seer though at one would make me happy. Um, Clifforts right now, as you guys have seen, that Cliffort Turbo thing is now a huge thing
problem.
on Dueling
Big
Network.
problem.
It's really fucking stupid because of Wavering Eyes. If I'll show you guys this card, I've talked about it in an earlier video, but it has four effects. But essentially, the second one is what we're worried about here. You can so it destroys your pendulum scales and your opponents, and then activates up to four effects depending on how many you destroy. This one's add one pendulum monster from your main deck to your hand. And with Clifforts, that basically turns into a 90% chance of a first turn towers. And if that wasn't enough, it's a first turn towers where you draw 3 cards. So it's a first turn towers for a plus.
So the thing with Wavering Eyes is balanced in all acts because it's trying to fill up your extra deck with Pendulum monsters and still giving you one back. But the problem here is just with Clifford Scout. Clifford Scout pretty much removes the problem Pendulums are supposed to have of actually having one scale sometimes. He just completely eliminates that effect by each turn you can get to search, and it's not limited to once during the turn. You can activate it multiple times if it was returned to the hand and reactivated somehow, which there are multiple ways to do with the deck. So Wavering Eyes would be completely okay in any other deck as long as Scout is not a thing, or cards that activate like Scout.
Yeah, I think Konami kind of fucked up actually with their like first pendulum archetype ever, pretty much like the first decent one. They made Scout, which completely like when people saw pendulums, they're like, "That's a really cool concept." You invest 2 cards to be able to special and have this renewable engine going as long as you can keep those 2 cards in play. But and having a 2 card combo is kind of hard. So like the reward was like worthy. It was worthy of the reward, but Scout's just like, hey, screw that. It's a 1 card combo for all your pendulum plays to work, which is just a little bit too powerful. Um,
And then also on top of that, they can also just keep on adding more monsters to summon into the pendulum swing, so they just keep on gaining advantage from Scout. If it was something more like Tanky, where it searches once, then the card would be actually okay. I would be okay with that. But Scout currently how it is definitely not okay at 2.
it's yeah, Wavering Eyes makes Scout just way too good. Scout at one thing I heard and I would be okay with would be Summoner Art to 3, Sacrifice to 3, and Scout banned actually, which would be the first normal card ever banned, normal monster ever banned. But I hate Scout.
And for some of you worried about the Clifford archetype, if that happens, they would still have pretty much as many searchers as any other deck. They would still have Summoner Art for Monolith, which is another level 5 normal monster that they need. And then Sacrifice is also another searcher. So they have 6 searchers in the deck. And then, I mean, that's still more than most decks
Hmm.
have. And Sacrifice, on top of being a searcher, also has some great effects. It can be counted as 2 tributes, can't be destroyed by battle. It's a great card in general. Like, it wouldn't
It's
hurt
a
the
really
deck very much,
yeah.
but like Scout just isn't fair.
Um, so yeah, sorry if you play Clifford's, but it's a lot of players have made a good point that it's also I noticed ARG didn't hit anything with Clifford's at all, which is kind of interesting. But when you're playing against Clifford's currently, this might change in the future. But any non-pendulum deck, because Clifford's are like the only viable tier wise one right now. Um, if you don't draw a card to pop Scout, like turn 1 or turn 2, you instantly lose because it's just so much advantage, and it's ridiculous. It searches a card that searches itself back in case you get rid of it. Like
And
just
then
think about that.
also just the 800 life point cost. That's not even a big cost, honestly. To search for any card in your deck on it, it's you can search for Floodgates with Recreate. It can search for the Equip spell. It can search for any monster. It's just too versatile and too powerful.
Hmm.
All right, so now let's move on.
So ARG banned Vanities. I kind of agree. Vanities is actually just getting better as pendulums become more and more relevant, which is going to happen because Konami wants to push pendulums because they want money. They're a business. I get it. Pendulums can be really cool. Vanity kind of just turns it into who drew Vanity sometimes and who didn't draw an out to Vanity. And those games aren't fun ever. Uh,
So, for some of you guys wondering why it makes vanities better, if you weren't aware of this, pendulum monsters don't actually trip vanities when they get sent or destroyed. Excuse me. Normally, if you had a monster in the field and it gets destroyed, it would be sent to the graveyard. And then, if you have a pendulum monster, it would be sent to the top of the extra deck. And because of that, vanities would just stay, and your opponent is left like with no outs still.
yeah. Okay. Um, so those were the big decks this format that we wanted to talk about. Now we want to talk about a few cards that could come back, maybe. Oh yeah. Sorry, Shadalls. Uh, so I still don't think. I think Shadalls are a really good deck. I don't think they're broken, mainly because of their consistency. Uh, Another good, my friend Ryan Hansen, shout out to him, gave a good quote once. He might have stolen it from someone. So, but here it is. If you're gonna hit a deck, you hit the power, not the consistency. Or no, I said that backwards.
No, no, you hit it. You
But
hit it right as a nail.
Shadalls are already inconsistent. So take and if you don't know, using a construct to fusion another construct is a +1 or a +2. Sometimes it depends on what the other monster is. Um, like for instance, if you use two constructs to fusion summon a construct, that's just fucking insane. But yeah, it's a huge plus boner because construct can go into more constructs for the deck, and it is crazy having to deal with three of this card because it is a very good card. Um, so maybe if you were to hit the deck, I don't think it needs to be hit as hard as the other decks just due to its consistency issues of needing a fusion or they kind of crumble. So El Shell Construct to 2 or 1 maybe. People have been talking about hitting the fusion, but I don't know. They just play Poly. I don't know. Would they play Poly? I don't know. That'd be funny. Um, okay, so upcoming things. Elder Entity Norden. This card's coming out. This creates a lot of stupid FTKs. However, if we ban the stupid FTK cards, it's not going to be a problem because these have been used in stupid FTKs throughout history. Um, and so, what are you pulling up? Oh yeah, Symbol of Heritage. This card's also a stupid FTK card. It's all currently though it's used in plants, and I wish this is only like I don't know.
Maybe Norden should be at 2 right away.
No, I'm not sure exactly what to do with Norden because Konami's obviously going to want to sell the tin. It's a tin card. Um, it's a crazy good card. Instant Fusion might get hit right away.
I don't think it'll be instantly banned because they want to sell a lot of it again. But yeah, it's definitely very powerful with Norden. It's probably the best card you can bring out.
Yeah, Norden. Yeah, it's a weird kind of balance of do you ban all the FTK cards? Do you ban Norden? Do you hit the things that make Norden? What do you do? I'm kind of curious about that actually, so I'd like to hear what you guys think. Next up, I was going to talk about cards that should come back for bad archetypes. Oh, Brad's typing in other things. So this is Fusion Gate. That's another card that
With Norden.
it's unfortunate though because a lot of these cards are like used in other decks, like heroes and stuff, and aren't stupid, but are made stupid by things like Norden. Um, but then again, like I think Norden is ultimately the problem. It's a really good card. Anyway,
Too good of a card.
it's too good of a card. But Konami's going to want to sell it, so what are they going to do? They're going to hit things that make it seem okay. So maybe even, I don't know. So now I did want to talk about, we're already pretty long into this, so I hope I haven't bored you guys too much. I am really interested to see what you guys think of this, though, if you did make it all the way through. The last part is going to be cards. This is going to be the most biased part toward me, are cards that I think should come back to make old decks viable and to make
some are for new decks.
Some upcoming decks viable that haven't shown any reason that they should be where they are on the list, in my opinion. Debris Dragon, Dragon Rulers don't exist anymore, so Debris Dragon I feel like could come back. I think he was hit because of Dragon Rulers. It's a really cool card for Synchro decks. Synchro decks aren't that strong right now. He can make the new Clear Wing Synchro Dragon, which is really cool. One card Clear Wing is pretty awesome, I think. I definitely think he could come back to 2, probably, especially with the new Synchronic Stream deck coming out. They're going to want to push that, so good chance of seeing him. Rescue Rabbit for Ignites coming out, and Normal Pendulums would both like Rescue Rabbit, especially with Tour Guide at 1 now. I think ARG actually bumped this up too. This guy isn't what he used to be. Dino Rabbit isn't as what it used to be. Not nearly as scary with Tour Guide at 1. So I think he could probably come back. He is a crazy good card for vanilla pendulum decks or vanilla decks. But then again, it is a vanilla deck, so they kind of deserve some crazy good cards. So I think I talked about Thunder King Ryo. I personally think it should go up, but unfortunately I think Konami's going to want it to go down because of upcoming support for other archetypes. There's a lot of searching. Charge went to 2 this format, and I didn't see any Light Sworns ever top.
Didn't make any waves.
Charge didn't really do anything. I don't think I saw it in any of the top tables. of the top 64 of the YCS. Infernoids didn't make it anywhere. They run charge. And Lightsworns didn't make it anywhere. They run charge. Those are the only two main decks that really run charge.
Zombies
Zombies.
sometimes.
So this is a card for kind of tier 2, tier 3 decks, and it lets tier 2, tier 3 decks work. And it definitely increases the consistency, but I don't think Lightsworns are going to be a problem anytime soon.
Even with their new support.
So this card could probably come to 3 maybe. It is a really cool card. It's a really good card for graveyard decks, but it does send for cost, so it isn't broken in the sense that it doesn't trip things such as Shaddoll effects or effects that get sent by card effect. Goldstark was banned because of Dragon. They hit a shit ton of cards because Dragon Rulers, if you guys noticed, but they should have just hit the Dragon Rulers and now that all the Dragon Rulers are banned, all those cards could probably come off the list now because they're never going to be as crazy as they once were. Goldstark would be, if this went up to 2 or 3, would help Ritual Beasts out. Ritual Beasts had a few tops and still struggle terribly from consistency issues. And I don't even know if I'd run 2 or 3, but I don't think it should be at 1 still. It is, as long as Dragon Rulers don't exist, it's a balanced card. Let's see what else. Spellbooks didn't really make a dent this format at all. Fate could definitely come back up, especially considering you didn't really need more than one Fate since it's a once per turn recyclable card. I definitely don't see any problem bringing it back. Bottomless wasn't used that much this format. It is really good against pendulums. It's really bad against some other relevant decks right now. Kind of depends. I could see this coming to 2 though, even though it is a crazy good card and it's been at 1 for a really long time. I think it could come back though. Back row is becoming less and less relevant because there's more and more things that just nuke back rows.
I mean, it's only been at 1 for like 2 years.
I guess it has. It's not. Compulse has almost become completely irrelevant in a single format. Mainly because of Necros and Cleaves, but that's still a really good reason. Pendulums don't care about Compulse. So I don't know why Konami would have any reason not bringing this back up to 2 or 3, just because it doesn't hurt pendulums. And then that means that if it hurts other decks, pendulums can use it to their advantage. So therefore Konami would be inclined to probably bring this up. I don't think Compulse is that bad of a card anymore. Punishes the extra deck, and I used to think it was hard to get into the extra deck, so it was unfair to punish cards for being from the extra deck, but now it's like the opposite. The extra deck's so easy to get into that you have to make cards that punish the extra deck. That's why things like Unicore, Shaddoll Fusion, Compulse need to exist now, I think, actually. Because it's kind of a reversal. ARG unhit Wind-Up Carrier, Zenmaity, and Wind-Up Magician, I think these could come back. They aren't. If they did come back,
Ban Hunter.
Ban Hunter. That's the degenerate card. They do create OTKs, but with Tour Guide at 1 and Zenmaity only at 1, and if you bring Magician to just 2-ish,
it's very inconsistent.
It's an inconsistent OTK, and it's not like OTKs already exist. Necros OTK, Cleese can OTK, Shadolls can OTK, Infernoids can OTK, Burning Abyss can OTK. Notice a trend. So is it really that bad for windups to be able to OTK? I don't think so. I mean, I guess the one difference is the Wind Up OTK is a 2-card OTK.
But the cards would both be hit.
But Infernoids also have a 2-card OTK with that same reasoning, though. Haha. Monster Gate, this is a personal bias card, but I'd love to see this card come up. I love this card. They chain Vanity or chain like Warning or a negate card to it, and it's a hard -1, especially because you usually have to tribute your normal summon. It is a hard -1 of a card, and only Infernoids can really abuse it. I would love if this went to 3 and Reasoning went to 1 or 0, even, because I just hate the randomness and luckiness that is involved with Reasoning. Monster Gate's just much more consistent, and I'd almost argue fair, because you have to tribute that monster, if that makes sense. Reasoning, you just can possibly mill your deck and get a card for free if they call wrong. I don't think Inzectors would be too scary if Hornet came back. I think Dragonfly actually probably should stay at 1 because I've seen a lot of FTKs on YouTube that involve just Dragonfly and one other card. So
Dragonfly is pretty scary.
Dragonfly is a crazy good card. If they errated Dragonfly to say once per turn for its specialing effect
during the turn, because it already is.
Well, yeah, it's already once per turn. What they need to say is you can only use the effect of Dragonfly once per turn. Then I think Inzector, both of them could go to 3 probably, and it would be a pretty fair deck. It was a really cool concept. And I mean, going Dragonfly and pulling out Hornet out of the graveyard was an awesome +3 combo. What it turned into because you popped one, specialed one, brought it back, popped another, added one. So you added 2 cards, popped 2 cards.
That's a
That's a +4, isn't it?
no. You use the dragonfly.
The Dragonfly is still there though.
Oh, I
Yeah, so
guess
I
it
guess it's
is.
+4.
It's a good combo.
It's a really cool combo. Um, that was balanced by all your monsters having shitty attack and being low level darks.
I also thought Inzectors were always just a cool deck. Not the Hornet part of it, but like changing levels, equipping monsters as equip spells, and
Yeah, so it's
yeah.
a cool deck that opened up a lot of techs. I want Cyberstein back. It's it's probably not fair. It might not be.
But there is so much effect negation. There's 3 breakthrough skills, skill drain,
I would be. This would just be my
3
Christmas
fiendish,
present. Uh,
3 Baylor.
I mean, it's the risk versus reward thing, and I think risking 5,000 life points and probably losing the next turn. Like, you're basically paying 5,000 life points and saying I'm either going to win this turn or lose the duel, which is actually a pretty hard gamble considering so much hand traps and stuff could stop it.
Vanity, Solemn.
Although I've talked about why this guy's really good in Infernoids, but uh, yeah, so that would make me very happy, but probably won't happen. But a boy can dream. Last but not least, Thousand Eyes. I don't see this being meta defining anymore. If you instant fusion gets hit, it definitely could come back.
Even if you instant fusion, it's a pay 1,000 life points, 1 card removal with
It's
targeting.
it's a 1-for-1.
Yeah.
It's a 1-for-1.
And also prevents you from attacking that turn, I believe.
Well,
Unless if you were to tribute it away.
Yeah,
or...
I don't see this card being too scary. I learned an interesting fact that it actually has a face under that eye. You can kind of see. Never noticed that until a couple of days ago. Finally, Dark Strike Fighter came back and was errated and did absolutely nothing, so I don't see why it couldn't go a little bit higher now.
Probably to 3.
Probably to 3.
That's pretty much it.
I still see potential in this card in Infernoids, though, actually, the more I've been thinking about it. So, it's a cool card. I mean, if you tribute in a Nuku, you can inflict 2,000 damage. That's a lot.
And then you can bring back a Deviatine and Popple Spell and Traps.
Yeah, so it's a pretty cool card, but I don't think it's broken anymore. So, hope you guys enjoyed this video. I'd like to hear, and we'll reply. We love replying to you guys. I don't know if you've noticed this, but we love being engaged with you guys because a lot of you guys have a lot of cool comments and
cool ideas and
spark a lot of cool thoughts for us, and we get giddy. Anyway, thank you guys all so much for the support. This channel's been going so well. Any suggestions you want at all, just leave them. We go over literally everything you talk to us about. So anything at all you want us to know, tell us, and we'll get back to you. Thank you guys so much, and have a great day.